Hey guys, welcome back to Accepting You. If this is your first time watching, my name is Gabby. Today we are going to talk about how racism affects mental health. Well, let me first off start with saying Happy Juneth. It's a very exciting day, and I'm very glad to be part of this time in history. As many of us know, worldwide, we have found many protests against the unjust treatment and inequality many African Americans have experienced throughout centuries. And they just want their voice to be heard, and yes, it has affected them in many negative ways. And many of the things that we're going to talk about is, African Americans, the Hispanic community, and the Native American community, how as minorities, I know there are other people who go through this and that are affected negatively because of racism. When I was researching the negative effects that go into how racism affects mental health, some of the things that I saw was that it brought low self-esteem, trauma, depression, anxiety, and the feeling of powerlessness. And it's very evident today, where when we see, all the protests, many of them were talking about how they just want to be heard. They felt like they have been oppressed for so many years, and they just want to be heard for once. And it's not made up. It took, so many people have suffered because of racism. For instance, Trayvon Martin, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery. So it's not something that is non-existent. It really does exist. And what I really want to get into is that, the African Americans community is reacting. They don't want to fear when a cop comes to them and wonder, is this cop going to kill me when I'm stopped by the cop? You may think, oh, why is this affecting them in such a dramatic way? Well, look at just some of the people I already just named. I was talking to one of my coworkers who has a son, a young man, and when he got his driver's license, I was talking to his mom. And one thing that she did mention to me that, I did think about, and it really surprised me, and that it's really true because many African Americans feel this way. She told me, the one thing that I fear is when he gets stopped by a cop. And I was surprised. I'll be honest with you, I was surprised. And she told me, I don't want them to think that he's doing anything wrong. He is a young black man. And then a couple months later, George Floyd dies. So I can understand her panic, her anxiety. I can understand the effects that it is affecting, how it's affecting their mental health. And I'm glad they're not being silent no more. I'm glad they're actually speaking up and fighting for their rights. As I was going through my phone, I came across this father talking to his daughter, who was an African American, and she was crying because she said, they don't like me because of the color of my skin. And she was in fear, and her dad was consoling her. So let me tell you that it is affecting young children in a negative way, where they can question, am I not valuable enough? Am I not worthy of love just because of my skin color? So that does affect those. It can make you have low self-esteem. It's not impossible. It's there. I think sometimes we just don't want to see it. And it's time to, to allow ourselves to look at the reality of what's going on. I also want to talk about the Hispanic community, because many times they are affected. Many families in the Hispanic community are affected due to immigration and much more. You know, sometimes you're not even an immigrant and you get called the most crazy things. I've heard it plenty of times. Just because you look Hispanic, you know, I'm Guatemalan. I look Guatemalan and proud, you know. And you have heard comments, I don't know if you've ever heard this, where they say, go back to your country, you don't belong here. Spics. And the one that really does bother me is when somebody says, oh, I'm gonna call immigration on you. And you know, that really personally has not happened to me, but I know that that has happened to others that I have seen before. And it's like, wow, the fact that you feel that you have that power over somebody, and it does cause somebody to feel powerless, like they can't do nothing. But many of them are here striving to provide for their families and their future generations so that they don't have to go through what they were going through. I understand everybody has their political view. You know, I'm not here to change that. I'm not here to disrespect your view. But what I am saying is that just because, you know, you have a specific view, it does not give anybody the right to degrade somebody just because they came from a different country, you know, to make them feel like they're less and not worthy of respect, of value, and so on. So it is so real. Something that I do realize with a lot of the Hispanics, personally, I know a young girl, she's 13, and she goes to my church, and her father was deported back to Guatemala. And every time I used to talk to her, she had such a hard time. She really changed. She started developing depression. Her life completely changed. She had to be the support system for her mother. Her mother was always working. She had to make sure that her little brother was always doing good in class, and so on. So there was a lot of pressure on her. Not only did she just become more stressed, depressed, she felt sad because of, like, just lonely. Yeah, it changed for her, and it has affected her mental health. Another thing that I do want to talk about as well is the detention centers immigrants are being placed in. Those are going to have long-term negative effects on their mental health. You know, I was really thinking about it, like truly meditating on it, and it's really sad not only to see children but adults receiving the treatment they're receiving. Many times I've encountered pictures of these detention centers, and many of these people are sleeping on a mat with a blanket if they are lucky. And I don't know if you hear the fact that if they're lucky. And there have been many articles talking about the sexual abuse they are going through. Some of them are going to come out with stories and trauma and pain that I really don't wish on anybody. And they're going to be carrying baggage on them. As well as something else, that I heard on the news when I was watching it. The Puerto Rican woman who stands up for immigration rights. I'm sorry, I don't know her name. I don't mean to offend anybody. She mentioned, as she was fighting for immigrants' rights, she said that many of them were drinking from the toilet because they did not have enough supplies. I don't know how they're going to feel to have to talk about that one day. Are they just going to want to block that story out of their life to move on, to keep striving? That they're being so belittled, and all these children that are going to be carrying this baggage. It's not fair. And it's sad that their mental health is going to be affected in this way. Also, going into the Native Americans community, I realized that I was reading and I came across the fact that due to the, COVID-19, we're in this pandemic currently, many of them have not received help or aid from the United States. And why? They're treated as such outcasts. And when it really comes down for the United States to help them, they're not there. There's no support. And it's so sad, especially when we look at history and how bad they were treated, and yet they're still getting treated like crap just because they want to keep their roots, their culture, and what they believe in. And then they, that word they get called savages, come on now. I know that many times they're not called that anymore, but the fact that in history they were called that, and that they're not receiving help, and they are feeling powerless as a group, and it's just really sad. So I just want, for everyone to know that if you are a minority, you are loved, you are valuable, you are worthy, and you are beautiful. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. I just want to add as well, I looked up some groups that are helping out the African American community, and their Instagram is Color of Change. So if you guys want to go look at their Instagram for the Native American community, I think it's very beautiful. Check out their website. It's called firstnations.org. For the Hispanic community, one that I saw was the National Hispanic Leadership.org. And that's all I really have for you guys today. I just want to give thanks to everyone who has subscribed, to everyone who has liked, who has shown support. It's appreciated, and I'm so thankful for that. I hope that this topic, can help somebody out. I just hope that, I want people to know that there are negative impacts that racism does affect mental health, and that we need to become aware, and that I support, especially during this time, Black Lives Matters. And if somebody wants to, educate me some more, if I was missing something, please let me know in the comments. I don't mind to, be educated more. I'm open to it. As well as, if you want to talk about, any event that has happened. If your family has gone through immigration and you just want to talk about it, don't mind to message me on my personal account, the Accepting You account. And yeah, if you have been affected, you know, in the as a black young man or as a black young woman, you have faced racism and you want to speak out about it through this channel and how it has negatively impacted you, come also DM me through my personal account. Your voice deserves to be heard. And just thank you so much for watching, and thank you, and have a great day, guys.